Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager, episode 79. We're going to be heading to Austria next to the Red Bull Ring. Both drivers, actually all three drivers, have development points. So we're going to go ahead and throw those in real quick so you can see where we're at. I'm trying to push these guys up to 85. Almost there for Porsche. Just getting started on this process as we just recently hit 80 on the smoothness tire wear. For doing now, trying to catch up at 82. Logan Sargent, meanwhile, you can see his weak point is he's still off on the cornering, so we're working on trying to get that up to an 80. After that, we'll work on his smoothness. Not that it really matters, as I don't think Sargent is ever going to end up driving for us, as we already have our two young drivers that we are planning on sticking with. It's easy to forget about the staff, but it is important to make sure each race weekend that you go in and verify that they are up to date as well. We're into a new period for updates for the car, wind tunnel, etc. And with that new period, it's time to determine what 3 or maybe 4 parts we want to divide that time into. And for that process, it's important to know what parts need the upgrades, which have the most ground to make up on the rest of the field. The chassis, 11th, 7th, 19th. That's a pretty obvious candidate. For those who don't know, by the way, you go into car and then look at each part. You look at the details and then change it from show values to rank grid. You could see that our front wing is close, 5th, 7th, but it's not quite top of the grid. So that's one that we would want to go ahead and do again, is the front wing. But with our rear wing already best on the grid, we don't need it right now. So we're going to keep our rear wing untouched this time. Side pods are still right at the back of the grid. Only the engine cooling is better than last. So side pods are priority number 1 at this point. The underfloor is best overall and nearly best across the board. And the suspension, like the side pods, are still right to the back of the grid. So I think a majority of the time needs to go into those 2 parts. We do have 4 parts that need upgrading. I think we can, this time, put a little bit into the front wing, put a bit into the chassis, and then divide all of the rest and majority overall into the side pods and the suspension. We're already on the 5th iteration of the suspension for this year, but when it's bad, it's bad. You got to do what you got to do. And you can see overall the car is starting to look pretty dang good. We've made a lot of progress on the car this year, but it's obvious, it's clear what needs attention the most. So for the new front wing, we want to make gains. And if we were to develop a new front wing right now, we're actually losing progress. You can see we would be coming out worse than what we have right now without putting any time into it. So we have to put some time into it, but that's something we want to kind of do minimalistically. So what can we do to keep it at a minimum? Having already looked at kind of the second, third phase of the design process, kind of going all out with it, the only way we even make progress where the part starts to get better and starts to move us up the grid a little bit is going pretty heavy. 20 wind tunnel hours, CFD MAU, that's a lot. That's a lot of allocation. I mean, the 2, we only have 4.5 for the period. That's almost half. I mean, that's a big chunk of what we have. It's 4/9 of what we have. And then this is a third of what we have, and that just gets it up the order a little bit. I mean, if we're talking the gains, this is marginal. This is very, very marginal gains. This is not significant gains. I think what I'm going to have to do is I can't divide it up amongst all 4 parts. We're going to have to be a little more direct on how we do this. So if I want to do front wing, which I think is the one that's going to make the car faster compared to the other components, if we're going to do the front wing, we're going to have to go pretty heavy into the front wing and put a lot more into it. which means I can only do maybe one more part this period and then do the other two parts in the next period. Just put more into each. So 2 upgrades now, 2 upgrades later. That actually is going to end up saving us a lot of money anyway, making each upgrade, bigger, more significant. So I think we're going to go all the way up to 3. We'll put 1.5 into one of the other parts, and we're going to put at least half of our hours here, and probably even more so. Let's see what happens. What does it look like if we take 2/3 of everything and then save 1/3 for one other upgrade? That's getting us up. Low speed, medium speed, high speed, all making gains, though still kind of marginal in terms of the overall gain. But it's how much better does that make us? Not much. Let's see what that would look like. Rank on grid certainly does move it up, but it's really kind of gets you ahead of one team. That's it. But it would get our high speed quartering up to first. It would get us above Red Bull, who are first in that category, and it would get the brake cooling all the way up to 5th from 11th. Let's do it. I think this is going to be one of the final purely aerodynamic parts, the front wing, rear wing, underfloor. This might be one of the final upgrades of the year that we have on the car in that area. I'm not saying it will be, but it might be. I'm already starting to look at next year just a little bit, as I think next year's the year that I want to make that championship run. We won't have Doohan as a rookie anymore. We hopefully continue to make the right upgrades at the right time on the car, not go crazy. Being a little more calculated now than before. As I'm only doing 2 upgrades, I'm going to go ahead and rush this thing. It doesn't hurt us. But the turnaround time comes down by almost 3 weeks. That'll get this on the car sooner rather than later, which we need. And of the other 3, chassis was a little bit better off than side pods and suspension. So even though I feel like I could wait on the chassis, the next period we're going to go 50-50, which means there's going to be better allocation. So the side pod suspension, I want the better allocation for them as they are further behind. As the chassis is a little bit better off, it's going to take the hit of being the one that's partnered with the front wing. We just saw with the front wing that the brake cooling is going to improve from like 11th to 5th. It looks like the chassis is going to get us from 12th to 6th in engine cooling. So we're finally getting to the point where that's approaching the top of the grid, and then making small gains when it comes to top speed and acceleration. See, each of them is giving us 1/100th, so we're going to get 2 100ths out of this. That's not much. That's enough to move up 1 spot. Last year we only managed 6th and 9th place, but I'm pretty confident that we should be competitive this year, as cornering is going to be the major function of what we're trying to do at this track, because there's not any long straights. It's a fairly short lap. Last year we were only about 10 seconds off of eventual race winner Max Verstappen. I think this is a car that's 10 seconds better comparatively at this point for this track this season.
The battle is surely going to rage this weekend. Welcome to the Green Hills of Austria. The Red Bull Ring hosted its first Grand Prix in 2014, and it's been spectacular ever since. The Red Bull Ring is one hungry beast of a power track. Drivers face a steep climb up to turn 3 and a fast ride downhill through wide corners and straights thereafter. There's plenty of opportunity to overtake here, especially with the help of 3 DRS zones. We're about halfway through the season now, and there's still plenty of time for everything to change. All eyes are on the teams and how they tackle the rest of the year.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe the translation for Spielberg is Playtown. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure that is the translation. And we're out rushing to get our banker lap in. Leclerc, the only one who may get in the way, but I think he might just about... he got in the way of Pourchaire a little bit, but not enough to hurt his time, as Pourchaire is quickest so far. Doohan somehow slowest so far, despite having no obstructions in his way whatsoever. In Q1, I only made a single run It was good enough for first and fourth at the time, and then eventually, as everybody else went out a second time, it was good enough for sixth and eighth. We're gonna go ahead and use that set another time, at least for Doin. I'm not happy with that time, so we're gonna get him out here and give him another chance to improve that time a little bit. Doin does not improve, and I think we're gonna need the fresh set for the last run. Now we may try to dive off into the pits here. Pourchaire, I think we can. We're gonna call him in early. He's already got, more than 5 guys behind him. Doin, on the other hand, has 4 at the moment. Alright, he's got 6 behind him. That's enough. Call him in. Never know what you might need for the race, and of course this was a fresh set, so it's partially used, but it's still fairly fresh. I think we can make our first Q3 run on this set right here. So that's going to be P2, P7 this time, without even getting the second run in. That was just first run alone. Pourchaire doing 2.5 runs, right? Pourchaire out first, but Bottas and Sainz pull out just in front of him. He's going to get around Sainz cleanly. Bottas is another matter, and as for Doin, he's going to come around right around 9-10, which is a problematic place to catch up to those guys. He loses about a 10th. Pourchaire, second quickest so far, but a lot of guys have their first lap impacted. Good news on that is those guys were on the fresh set here, and they're going to be out on the used set later on, and that's good for us. Doin, no fresh sets remaining. I don't know what happened with free practice 1, but it should only use 2 sets. And then what ended up happening in practice is it saved the hards and used the softs on the throwback, because we had one day that it was, sopping wet out, and Doin ended up losing a set of softs. That's not what I would have picked to return. We would have returned those hards for sure. I'm actually kind of nervous about using these, because you might want these for the race. You know what? Doin, we're going to sacrifice his qualifying a little bit. He's going back out on the same set. I'm not risking it. Right now he's sitting in P3, and this is going to take his chance away from pole, but we need to save one set of tires for the race. Leclerc goes top for now, provisional pole. That is P3, P5 for the time being, and Doin probably not going forward, hopefully not going backward. McLaren off the pace this weekend as Bottas is only 9th. And here is a lap around Spielberg with Pourchaire. Yellow flag, sector 2. Somebody with a problem. It looks like that was the McLaren. That's going to... oh no, it was going to Zhou, but it impacted the McLaren anyway. And Perez stays P4. Sainz goes P5, so Doin's down to P6. Albon is P7. Gasly remains P9. Bottas moves up to 9th, to 7th, that is. So Doin's already locked in for 6th and does not improve, but we've got our top 3 coming across line. Verstappen does not improve. He stays P2. Leclerc does not improve. He stays P1. We don't need much, Pourchaire. We do not need much. And we get it. That's a pole. Our second of the season, or third, is it? Oh, 3 1,000ths.
Tension continues to build here as race day begins.
Williams made short work of the qualifying session here and have been rewarded with strong grid positions to start the race. We saw a reasonably good qualifying performance from Ferrari, and they certainly have a good chance to capitalize during the race. And the weather is sunny here today, apart from a few clouds. Let's hope they remain scattered on the horizon.
And this is the moment where it all comes together. So prepare for another thrilling race, here at the Austrian Grand Prix. I don't want to tempt fate, but there are quite a few clouds overhead as we look at the lineup on the grid. Here's Williams. They're starting today at the head of the pack, but will they be able to stay there? And looking at the second Williams car. Not as close to the front as they might have wished for, but we know the race order can change a lot during those first few corners. Everything's been building to this. The crowd are ready, the cars are ready. It's the Austrian Grand Prix. It's lights out, and away we go.
And that's a 1st and 5th following some penalties enforced on a couple top 10 drivers for new components. So it's a Ferrari 2-3 behind us, and Doohan already ahead of Sainz up to 4th. Verstappen started down around 9th or 10th as he had roughly an 8 grid spot penalty. Doohan's able to get up beside Leclerc, and on the exit of turn 3 is able to complete the move, and already challenging Perez as well. And that'd be something if we could beat a 1-2 before the end of the first lap. He's going to tuck back in.
Position just gained by Williams.
Switch lines. He's going to have a look up the inside. And man, oh man, are we this fast? Are we this fast? I'm liking this. It's a 1-2. And still on the first lap. Yellow flag, sector 1. Got Aston Martin holding up the entire back half of the grid. Oh, red flag. It's a big crash. It's a big crash. We're going to restart from 1-2, but Pourchaire, did you just see what happened with Pourchaire?
Let's have a look.
He just spun out.
Let's look at
Please
this.
tell me
Here's
he's
George
still in
Russell.
first. Oh, Russell. Ouch. Well, there's one of our partial rivals out. Oof, Pourchaire keeps P1. Pourchaire keeps P1. Man, that is lucky. He just spun out. Because we've already got Pourchaire out front. We just want to make sure that Doohan tucks in behind. And Pourchaire already has the P1 down. So we can go back to neutral already. And Doohan has just about secured P2 already. Let's go ahead and go back to neutral.
We want to leave court, please.
I hate that I've lost my pit window now by changing to a fresh set of mediums after one lap. And that gets us out front. And we've got a 6/10 already on Perez, who sits in P3. Is it possible to get out more than a second ahead of these guys?
Increase lifting coast.
Copy.
You can afford to drop back.
Copy.
8/10 ahead on Perez. Ocon off the back, off the pace. I think he was caught up in everything that just happened there.
Very good. Lap time out good. Lap time out good.
That's just lap swapping around. Schumacher off the pace. Norris is 13th. Bottas is 7th. And Doohan, come on, dude. He's going to be last place here. They
Let's
stop.
take a closer
He'll get
look.
going again there.
Now we see the Williams here. And this, yes, this is where they spun
It
out.
looks off, but it's clear that he got on the gas too
And
early
that
on the
was
exit.
a bitter blow for the team. And it
Doohan sucks. He's driving me nuts here. But Pourchaire did the same thing his rookie year. He did the same damn thing. So that's 13th for Doohan, as Latifi came to a halt and everybody behind stopped. So at least we're still ahead of Norris, but Doohan really giving that one away. But good news is he's got pace and he will ultimately catch back up, but he's really thrown the race away. Pourchaire, meanwhile, though, has opened up a couple second lead over Perez. Love to see him be able to drive away, where Doohan then starts to battle back. He's already down to 2.9 and out to 9/10 on Latifi. The chasing pack with Gasly, Verstappen kind of just hanging on to that. Gasly on the verge of losing that train and holding him and Verstappen up enough that they would lose ground. Yellow flag, sector 1. Didn't see it.
oh,
Behind
there's
us
a
wherever it is.
spin.
It's Norris. Norris with a spin. That's going to rule him out. So Doohan has ruined his own day, but at least Norris has also done the same as obviously the other challengers. We have just 5 points separating second to fourth. Has now closed up on Sonoda, enough so that we are in DRS. So he's used up a little bit of that spare fuel following that red flag. Share finishes up another lap, 3.3 ahead, and Doohan now has another gap to cover. He is 2.6.
Stomping that.
Fastest lap, nice. 2.6 behind Vettel, and then Magnussen. Little two-man train that he's chasing down now. Gasly with the problem. And he rejoins the track. That's a lockup. Gasly went wide at, let's see, where would that be? So, start-finish line's over here. That is turn 1. They call this a turn. This is the one I was talking about. That is turn 2. And then turn 3. Oh, oh.
Here's the replay. Now we see the Williams here.
We're not pushing. Same spot.
What a spin!
What a spin! I'm starting to have a thought. Spitballing here. Hamilton's available. He doesn't have a racing seat. All along in this process, I have favored the young drivers, favored the development of the young drivers. And I could and should stick with the young drivers, see it out, see them become champions. It just takes longer. It's gonna take longer because they keep making dumb mistakes. Porsche makes the mistake there. Doohan's already made his mistake. We were a comfortable P1, P2. We have the pace to beat everybody else. The car has the pace to beat everybody else. They have enough pace to beat everybody else, but they can't stop fucking up. So now we're sitting in P6, P11. Going to try to fight back. This race is not over. We could still win this race. But race after race after race after race after race, these guys keep blowing it. Doohan, has he caught up? He has, and he's already making a move around the outside of the Aston Martin, but he's going to tuck back in, and here's another incident. Sector 1.
Did somebody spin out
Sonoda
there?
with the spin. Need that little extra, apparently. These guys are a little bit faster than the other ones. Oh, hello. Big spin out of Magnussen right in front of us. We backed off. We hit the brakes hardcore when we saw him go around. And it opened a big
We've
old
just
gap
had a
in front of
spin.
us. We went from right behind Verstappen with just that car right between us to second and a half separating us. Doohan. Oh, Doohan. Did you go into the
Let's
wall,
take a look at
Doohan?
the replay.
You were
Now
nowhere
we
near
see
the wall.
Williams here. Going wide
Oh,
like
no.
that
Okay, he
could
stopped.
cost them
He stopped.
valuable time.
But,
And
you know,
there's the
you wouldn't
lockup.
expect any less, right? Wouldn't expect any less. Back out and running again, back down in P12. If we stick with the young drivers, you and I both know it is going to take extra time. We may not be winning a championship next year. Not because of the car, but because of the drivers. Because of the mistakes that they make. We have the ability to win races, and we do win races. But we have two young guys who just keep making mistakes. So do I stick with them? Do we stick to our guns? Do we win a championship? Do we go for a 1-2 with Porsche and Doohan? These are the guys we picked. Or is it time to start thinking about a free agent Lewis Hamilton and whatever whatever other top driver we could foreseeably go after this season and get 2 top drivers in. And you and I both know we'd go win the championship next season, no problem, if we did that. 2.7 down for Porsche, doing way back down in P12. Right back with the guys that we were with a while ago, who he had passed up and left behind and moved on to the next. And now he's right back down to those guys after doing his second mistake of the day. And now we don't have all that spare fuel. I would imagine pit stops are going to be coming relatively soon. And Porsche back within a second. Does not get DRS that time though. It's after the detection zone that he got within. And ahead of him, of course, they had DRS, so we've still got some additional catching up to do. But wow, what an exit that or entry into turn 3. Big crash, and there is a Red Bull with a big problem. The big crash is Ocon and whoever's with him.
Let's see what happened there.
So that was
Now
2
have a
things
watch of
happening at the
this.
same time
Looks like
at different
Ocon.
parts of the track. AlphaTauri with the lockup hits Ocon.
And there's the collision.
AlphaTauri
It's
into the
caused
wall.
absolute carnage.
That's
Sounds like there's been a
Schumacher.
crash.
That is Schumacher. Oh, right. Sainz was the one who made the mistake. So that's both Red Bulls down to P6, P7. So that's good news on the day. And we've already caught Bottas. So that would put the McLarens behind us. That would put the Red Bulls behind us. The Ferraris are still a bit of an issue, though, aren't they? Aggressive. Overtake.
So heads down, focus.
We're not even touching the battery. That time I think we did, and we are getting a run up the hill here as we make that left-hand kink that is turn 2 and head up towards turn 3. And under braking, we are going to get up the inside of Bottas, and on the exit should have the overtake done, and do. We are up to P4.
That's great job, great job.
And we're making another run right away here on Albon, and then the 2
Perfect.
Ferraris, and we're going to get up the inside of Albon very quickly, very easily. And that is now
That's a good
P3.
overtake from Alpine.
More or less double 90-degree turns. Not quite, but just about. The American just about, not the British just about. And the US just about means almost not quite. In the
Doing what you're
UK,
doing.
it means just over the line, just enough. And with DRS, we move back into the race lead. Porsche has already covered off his mistake, but he has used up a fair bit of battery, fair bit of tires. It's almost time to pit. Back to standard. 40 laps to go.
Back off.
Doing way back here in this train, we had caught and passed all of those guys and had caught up to this group. That is all the way that's how much ground he lost over that stretch. Porsche being challenged by Leclerc, of course,
And there's
DRS
an overtake
being
from
his
Williams.
benefit. The more we can hold up right now and not go backwards, the later we hold out to switch to the mediums, the faster we're going to be for
advance the
longer.
race position.
So I don't mind staying out. Our position is quite clear now. Doohan, on the other hand, may want to pit sooner. He has gotten around those guys and is once again trying to close that gap on that next group ahead. And he's already down to just 2 seconds behind, where it was 4 seconds a while ago. It was about 2.5 after he got passed by Gasly the last time, but as he comes around, he immediately, takes a half a second off of it. But Gasly has just enough pace that he keeps making that progress, getting around, and then we don't get any closer to those guys
a
in front
Ferrari just
until
gained a
Doohan
place.
once again gets around. Position. Sainz with a big problem. Yes, okay, there
It's a
is one
spin.
Red Bull ruled out. Sainz with that spin, and he's going to drop all the way to P15 right there ahead of Norris. So So Porsche back in the lead. Leclerc, Perez just
And
behind.
a new position.
And Albon,
Just
Bottas
gained
down
by
to P5.
Williams.
And Bottas 3.5 seconds down. Bottas has lost the train here. So that is excellent news as the McLaren is falling behind. 2 Ferraris and an Alpha challenging. You see how easily Porsche gets around these guys to go forward. So do it. Dives off into the pits. We are the first to pull the trigger. Others really going deep on their tires. Doing 2.574 for his stop. He's going to come back out way down in P17. Of course, he was already down a bit, wasn't he? Aggressive. You can go all the way to there, but let's go standard for a little while. We can absolutely go aggressive later on and on the fresh set. We want to see what our deltas are like. Okay, so a 107.482, 107 flat. Definitely faster right now, gaining ground on everybody else. Sonoda into the pits. It is that time, folks. It's that time. Porsche 107.2 that time. We're doing consistently 107 flat. And do we need to pit this lap? I think we might need to pit. It's that time. It is the... I think it's that time. Two 663, little off of Doohan's pace, and we're gonna come back out in P7 and come back out alone with some nice clean air ahead of us. 10 seconds behind Bottas, and we're gonna push just on the engine, not on the tires. We want them to last. We want them
Look
to
at
last.
reducing the lift and core.
Seems to be the way to go now. So everybody opting for the softs. Big change of what the initial strategy would have been. He's going to be able to push here in a later phase anyway, but I don't know if he's going to get back up into the top 8. We'll see where he's at after these pit stops though, because he's definitely been picking up 3/4 of a second per lap on most of the others around, and the guys that were behind him are well behind him, and he's got good pace. We're back up to P6 already. We were 10 seconds. We're down to 8.5.
Very good.
Fastest
Lap time
lap.
are good. Lap time are good.
Fastest lap. Let's look at the lap times here. So we just had 2 purples. We're going under 106. We are gaining 2 seconds per lap on these guys. 2 seconds per lap. Which means when they come out, they're going to be well behind. They're going to be nowhere near DRS, so they're not going to be able to get the toe. As Sainz pits, he comes out behind Doohan. So Doohan is not only caught and passed. Look how far Sainz is down. He's going to come all the way back out in P17. Bottas has already pit, I believe. No. Yes, okay. Whew. I saw Stroll for a second. So Bottas has already pit. He is the second car on track that has already pit. And then Doohan is third. So right now, your virtual 1, 2, 3, in terms of those that have pit versus those that have not, is Porsche 1, Bottas 2, Doohan 3, and Ricciardo, the latest. Now Stroll into the pits. You don't think these front 5 are going to try to go the distance 70 laps on the hard compound? That would be crazy. Or it's 2 of them anyway. It is 2 of them. There's a lapped car in there with them. Schumacher is there. Ooh, yeah. Joe, go through. I'd happily follow him through past Verstappen. Right now, that's a Red Bull in P5, and that's the highest. Pourchaire's about to already eclipse that. There we go. We get one, but we tuck back in on the other and then give up the position, but we do recover it on the third turn and then get around him before the fourth turn. There you go. Back down we go. And that
there's
is
an overtake
P4.
from Williams.
P4. We want to drive away from these guys very quickly. We do not want to be giving them DRS and bringing them along with us. And we've got them out of DRS already. 1.4 behind. And just 3.5 seconds behind Albin now. That's Bottas and Norris up to 7th and 8th now, though. But Norris has not
just
pit.
had a car run wide.
Verstappen runs wide on turn 6. And there is Albin. There is Albin already in sight. Now, meanwhile, Doohan has Norris and Bottas in sight
I
up
think
ahead.
someone's run wide.
Hi. Hello, Doohan. Hi. You wanted to go wave to your fans?
Let's have a look. Now we
Jeez.
see the Williams.
Third mistake
here.
of the day for Doohan.
They're forced wide, and there we can see them slide off. They've locked up and gone straight on.
I know this time we're going aggressive, right? But 3 mistakes for Doohan. 3! Jeez, Latifi doesn't even make that many mistakes. Cotton past him and left him in the dust. We're 8 seconds. Sorry, that's to leader. We are just over a second ahead of Albin. Albin hanging on. Oh gosh, I had not changed that. But Pourchaire runs wide. I changed it as he was in the gravel. He makes his second mistake of the day, and now he's 7 seconds behind again. Still getting up to speed. Almost 8 seconds down. I don't know how much more I can take of this. 5 mistakes from the pair. 5. Somebody else with the mistake for a change. You know, there's been maybe 8 other mistakes all day. We've had 5. There's been about 13 total. I mean, you know, we nearly account for half of the mistakes all day. And this has not been a clean race. I mean, this has been a bad one. And yet we still have accounted for nearly half of all mistakes. Okay, we finally got Albin back out of DRS range. Alright, Albin's 2 seconds down. We only have enough for overtakes, so that's going to be that. 5.6. Can Pourchaire get in range before the end of this race? Will he have enough left over? We don't have much battery, but we definitely can't lower the pace to catch up right now unless we catch up early, and then we can afford to do that. Will these guys end up pitting late? Will they be forced into a late pit stop? They're at 39%, 37, 35, 36. You know, there's a chance.
And a new position just gained by Williams.
We need to find out what just happened.
We can
There's the
take a
crash.
look now. Now let's look at this. The focus on
Stroll.
Tsunoda.
Stroll and Tsunoda. They got going again right away, so. No caution coming out. We're okay. I was worried about where Pourchaire was. I was going, do I need to dive into the pits and put on fresh softs? Now it's 60%, so we're going to lose a little bit of our pace advantage, but we're only 1.3 behind, and they are going so slow. So even though we're going to end up slowing up just a little bit, we've got this thing, even after 2 mistakes. Doohan's 3 mistakes, though. I mean, he's half a lap down on his teammate. He is catching a big group of cars. He could still foreseeably get all the way up to 8th. He could still get Norris and get up to 8th. He's only 5 seconds down. It's not going to be easy, but he can get 1 point. He could still salvage 1 point. But here is Porsche on the back of the two Ferraris with plenty of time to not only catch them, but to leave them behind. How is he down to 0.4 already from 0.8? He's only been running for a couple laps. Right now, the two Ferraris, if we can get around both of them, they'll gain 14 points. We win. We still only gain 10, so they're going to outgain us thanks to Doohan. But we're up the outside of Leclerc. Can we get to the inside of Perez as well? No, not
Doing
quite.
what you're doing.
Get him right here before turn one. Back into the race lead. Back into the race lead.
Good job, good job.
Let's see if we can get them out of DRS range so we can just cruise
7 laps
towards
to
the
go.
finish. Doohan has caught up. He's got back around signs. And now he's up behind Magnussen. Give him overtake.
To use the
5
overtake.
tenths ahead.
Copy.
5 tenths. Can we drive away? Doohan gets around Magnussen. 7 tenths. Over a second ahead, before the detection zone. That was before the detection zone, so we should...
DRS
No
is
DRS?
disabled.
No
is
DRS.
currently
There you go.
disabled.
Okay, battery's empty. Yeah, saw that coming. New fastest lap
Fastest lap.
for Porsche. 1.5
job.
ahead. 1.5 ahead. Neutral the rest of the way.
Okay, back off.
And no more mistakes, huh? No more mistakes. As Doohan goes up to B12, he's just got around Ricardo. Save that for the next overtake. Save that for the next overtake.
Increase, lift and coast.
These guys drop below 60%. It's going to make
So
them
stop
easier
getting off.
targets now as Doohan actually just set the new fastest lap, taking that away from his teammate. And Gasly in P8 is just ahead. It's way too big of a gap to Verstappen, but it's not to Gasly. But can we make the
5
overtakes
laps.
count? Here we go. Do it. Down the main straight. They both have DRS, but he's pushing, he's using the battery, and he's getting the job done. That's going to be another position. Back up to P11. No points for
So
Norris.
that's
Bottas
4 to
in
go.
5th for
4
the
to go.
McLaren team is definitely not going to score too many points from there. Verstappen pits! Verstappen pits! That is another position for Doohan coming up here shortly,
And a new
potentially.
position
That's going to be
just
tight.
gained by
It's going to be
Williams.
tight. He might hang on to it. He might hang on to it. He's still parked, though, on pit road. Still parked. And he starts moving again. He starts moving again. There is pit road. And we're going to get past him. We are going to get past him. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. P9. How many others are going to pit here in the dying laps that can't make it on the hards? Can't make it the whole race distance. Oh gosh, up the inside. 3 wide. 3 wide. Doohan with the double overtake up to P7. Will he finish the job, though? Will he finish the job? Whew. 4 guys that still might pit here down the stretch. Verstappen's all the way down to P15. So a pit stop now is Porsche, meanwhile, 5.5 seconds ahead of Leclerc. Perez just behind him. 3 seconds back to Norris, though, so that one's out of the way. We just got to deal with these two briefly. Lap 70, but we're still on 69 with Doohan. Can we get Doohan back up into the points? Can we get him back up into 7th? These guys are both all over the back of Vettel. Somebody's going to miss out on points. 2 of these 3 cars are going to get points. 6.5 seconds ahead for Porsche, and he's going to begin the final lap. Final lap of the race. Save this for the straight.
Last lap, last lap.
Vettel has already been passed by Gasly. We're going to get Vettel
Close
here.
this gap.
We've got one more overtake to try to make, though. We're down to 0.0, so we've got to be really careful on this last lap with the fuel. But here comes the run that we need. Here comes the run that we need. And Pourchaire comes around. Let's get with Pourchaire as he heads for the finish line. And that is a win for Pourchaire. Teo Pourchaire has won the race. Doohan used up all of his battery already. That's turn 10. We just get back to a positive delta right at the end. Last turn, cross the finish line. Doohan recovers for P7, picks up 2 very valuable points. That's 12 for the team, with 8 and 6 for Perez and Leclerc. They still gain 2 points on us today, but no points for Red Bull. McLaren also with a pretty weak day, with Bottas only in P4, picking up, 5 points? So we gained 7 over McLaren today. All in all, it's a good day. It's still only a Constructors P2 for the day, despite the victory. But 5 mistakes and still getting a race win. And getting both drivers in the points. That is really discouraging and encouraging at the same time. Glass half full. Glass shattered up against the wall, totally empty.
This was thrilling to watch.
Optimism.
They've done an excellent job, and they...
Pourchaire just 2 points off Max Verstappen right now for the Drivers' Championship. 1 ahead of Leclerc. 3-horse race at the top. Doohan way down in P9 on just 26 points, half of his teammates. Constructors, there is that confirmation of 2 points lost to Ferrari. 6 behind, but also just 4 behind Red Bull now for Ferrari, and we've closed that gap to just 10. Boy, things keep changing pretty rapidly, and we open up a much healthier gap of 8 points over McLaren, picking up 7 today. Everybody else is definitely too far. Alpine, Mercedes are okay, competitive at times. Alfa Romeo is okay and competitive at times, but not consistently enough. It's very track specific for those guys. The top 4 is quite clear, quite evident. The top 1 is quite clear, quite evident, but blunders like today are setting them back. We have not been the second quickest, but we are now. We are close to having the best car on the grid right now. If the drivers can clean it up, we can do a lot more. Pourchaire should be sitting on back-to-back wins at the moment, but he did manage to get 1. That is going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.